Hi U.S. History students, and welcome to the 2.04 Outline and Thesis Assignment Directional video. In this video I'm going to be going over step by step what you need to complete for the 2.04 Outline and Thesis Assignment, which is actually worth 50 points. This assignment is due on December 21st before you go on winter break. The first step in this assignment is to actually watch the video, which I'm recording right now. So if you are listening to me, you are on your way to starting the first step in the assignment. The second step will be to go down to page 4 of the assignment sheet to review the resources that we have on the assignment before you start. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that together with you so you can get a sense for what is expected in the assignment and what is available to you. Now the resources are on page 4, as I mentioned, and if you scroll down you will see that the first thing your resources begin to talk about is a thesis statement, because that is a major part of this assignment. We have to figure out what a thesis statement is before you can effectively sit down and try to write one for your research project. Now, I found this interesting resource online here from Dartmouth College, and Dartmouth has a writing material section that goes over research project and research paper development. And they have this section completely devoted to writing of a thesis and development of a thesis. If you would like more details about thesis statement development, you can feel free to use the link that is here. But what I've done here is provide a screenshot here of the 3 major things that your thesis really needs to do. The first thing a thesis statement needs to do is make a claim. Okay, it doesn't mean that you just have to state simply that you're either for or against something, or either or, an either or type of position on the subject. But you do need to develop a perspective, a certain position on what you are talking about. For instance, you don't want to say something that is more of an observation, like America is violent. That's an observation or a statement that does not have any kind of position attached to it. But if you said something like Americans are violent because they are fearful, that actually has a position attached to it that begs the question, why? Okay, you have to support it with something and back it up with something. Okay, the second thing that a thesis does is it will control the entire argument. Basically, it sets up the stage for the parameters or borders of your paper. It determines what you're required to say in your paper. So a good thesis statement keeps you reined in to your position and reminds you of what you need to be focusing on. Okay. And the third part is a good thesis will provide a structure for your argument. So not only is it providing boundaries, as we're talking about here in limits in number 2, it provides a structure within those limits, a direction for you to go on or to go in. A good thesis not only signals to the reader what your argument is, but how your argument will be presented. Okay, so those are the 3 things that your thesis really needs to do. Let's take a look at a sample thesis statement that I have for you up at the top here. And this example is as follows. This paper explores the terms of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and how they drove Germany to economic crisis and propelled the world into World War II. Now, this example cannot be accepted as your particular thesis. This is just an example, and you need to come up with your own topic and thesis. But this is an example. You can see here that the person writing this paper is proposing that the Treaty of Versailles is what caused World War II, and specifically because of the economic crisis that it created. So it's taking a position, it's establishing the boundaries of what the paper will discuss, and it's laying out a focus on economics. Okay, so your thesis statement you're going to put right here under place your thesis statement here once you've made sure that you've taken the combination of what your topic is and what you want to accomplish in your paper, and you've created your very own thesis statement. Okay, so as you're working, you might need to retool it a couple of times. The thesis statement takes a while to perfect, and it may be a little bit down the road until you are able to pin down a thesis statement after you've learned a little bit more about your topic. Okay, so don't get discouraged. Give it a couple tries, and if you do need help, make sure you're using office hours for that. The second part of your assignment, actually, let me rewind here. Remember that your thesis statement is actually 15 points of your assignment total, which is 50. Okay, so your thesis statement is worth 15 points. Your research project outline is worth 35 points. Okay, I do have a rubric outlining specifically the point values and what is expected of you on the bottom of page 3 here, so that you can see that each portion of your thesis that it addresses those 3 areas that we just talked about are 5 points each. Make sure it takes a position, provides structure, and determines the scope or limit of the paper. Your outline portion of this assignment is worth 35 points. And as you can see here in the assignment, just under where you write your thesis statement, there is a portion here about your outline, and it provides an outline structure for you. You can type right on here and put your outline thoughts within the structure of this outline. Okay, you can add to this outline, but I want to make sure that you don't take away. Please make sure that you have your thesis statement, the intro, background information, an event summary or a summary of what happened during the time of your event, and the impact and conclusion in your outline to submit. Okay, so these are all portions of your outline that you need to include in your project, okay, or in your outline for this assignment. Okay, so let's take a look at the example of an outline before we get into the details here. I want you to go back down to your resources and take a look at how to outline. This portion on how to outline is another online resource that I found of another high school research project that was put together for advanced placement students. This project really did a great job. The directional booklet did a really good job of talking about how to outline and how it's used, how outlining is used in a research project. Okay, it's important to organize your thoughts early in a research process so you know how things are going to look and where you need to develop things further. Okay, the outline will most likely change as you gather more research and improve on what you have, and maybe as you advance your thoughts of what you're going to include and exclude. So don't look at an outline as a final product. It should be changing as you go and slightly adjusting to keep you set up basically with a roadmap of what you're going to write. Now, the outline should divide your topic into the major areas you will focus on. The information needs to be ordered in a clear and logical manner. Remember, if you don't have an outline, it's more likely that if you start writing, you're going to include things as you remember them, and not as they would make sense to a reader, and maybe not even as you intended to outline them yourself. So don't allow the writing process to take over and just become a very unstructured process. Make sure that you stick to an outline as a way to make sure you're covering everything that you need to, and that your point does not get lost in a rambling paper that goes from point to point and returns to previous points without direction. Scan your overview source and some of your broader sources that you've used to get information, and make sure that you have a clear idea of what your topic is and the information involved that you want to include in a paper. You can't really create an outline until you know an awful lot about your topic. So this is something, again, this is your third out of 4 assignments for the research project, so you're going to be doing this towards the end when you know a little bit more about your subject. Look at the table of contents and some of your sources. It shows you how authors frequently organize their information and may give you ideas of how you want to present. I'm also providing you with a sample outline here and have the outline started for you and gave you the structure of it above in your assignment. Remember to consider what is the best way to organize your information. Should it all be chronological? Should part of it be cause and effect, compare and contrast? Maybe it should be deductive, or starting with a general problem then explaining specific examples and causes. It could be inductive as well, starting with a specific example and causes and then connecting them to the general problem. For you guys, the thing that you're probably going to use the most is chronological, cause and effect, and compare and contrast, the first 3, with it being a history course. Here's your sample outline here, and you can see this was actually done on a topic very similar and something that could actually be done in our course, the subject of the New Deal. In the introduction, you're introducing the idea of the New Deal, giving background information, and the thesis statement would appear in the introduction. In part 2, you're giving a little bit of a background of what the New Deal was, what led up to this ideal of the New Deal. The idea of a New Deal. The New Deal was legislative or a bunch of laws put into place by Roosevelt during the Great Depression that was a plan to get the country's economy back on track. So the background might be talking about the economic collapse that led to the necessity of the New Deal and how it came to be. Now, the third portion of this paper is going to be talking about the impact of the New Deal. Notice how the impact or the reason why the New Deal is important, the influence that it had, is the largest part of the paper, as should it be for yours. You want to talk about the political, economic, and social impact of the event that you are writing about on the U.S. And all 3 of these sections are going to be talking about and emphasizing why your event was a turning point in U.S. history. Because you're talking about a huge impact, it is your job to convince your reader that this is beyond doubt, that your topic is beyond doubt a turning point in U.S. history by giving this evidence. As you can see, for political impact, it talked about legislations, the 3 R's of reform. One of the 3 R's was reform and rebuilding. Okay, so they wanted to rebuild, reform as part of the New Deal. These were ideas and general themes of legislation. There was also an expanding role of government as a result of the New Deal, the government taking on new roles it didn't have before. So use this existing sample outline to guide you through what you're going to do back up here on your assignment in the existing structure of an outline. You can see here I have an introduction, a spot for your thesis statement to go right here, and a place for you to put the impact on the United States, a brief statement of the overall impact of how your event changed the U.S. I have an area for the background information, a brief summary of your event, probably in chronological order, and the political, social, and economic impact. Remember, you might not have every single one of those filled in. You might have a topic that's primarily socially and economic impact and not as political. That's okay. Just make sure to beef up that portion of your outline a little bit more if that's the focus that you have. Okay. Finally, you have a summary where you're going to restate that your event was a turning point and summarize the above arguments. Then you want to tell the reader at the end as a final conclusion what the impact of the event has on our lives today and may have on the future looking forward. That is an effective conclusion, and your outline is worth 35 points. So creating your thesis and filling in this outline will get you 50 points and is the third a part of your total research project that you have for U.S. history. This is the 3rd assignment out of 4. Good luck with your outline and thesis assignment. Please contact either myself or Mrs. Whitmore with any questions, and have a good one.